she sends her very best. I thought it might be nice, I know we have a few newer faces just to go around and if anyone could just introduce themselves and give the entity they represent. I'll start. Liz Cribs with the New Yorker Berman Foundation. Oh, and also, I was reminded, we all speak into the microphone. I know some of us can hear each other in the room, but it's really also for the benefit of the recording. So thanks for using the mic.
Oh, yeah, the fans.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm Yexenia Markland from Fordham University.
Tom Hamilton, New York City Department of Education.
Jackie Channing, Lisa Sart.
Peter McCree, Look to Consult.
Good morning, Greg Hambrick, Model Sporting Goods.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Weddick. I'm here representing HRA Career Services and Sarah Haas.
Hi, my name is Maureen Anderson. I'm from Access VR, which is a part of the State Education Department.
Sarah Marks, DYCD External Relations.
Good morning, Jeanette Rodriguez with Nike.
Maureen O'Connor, Queens Library.
Anthony, DYCD.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jordana Lee from Lincoln Center.
Denise Williams, DYCD.
Pick that mic, we started.
Thank you so much. So now I'd love to turn it over to Commissioner Chung to give his report. I was just saying it was filled with a lot, so much going on since we met last. So please go ahead.
Let me first of all apologize for the air conditioning. So this is a private landlord, and part of the lease agreement was they would replace the air conditioning, but they didn't tell us they were going to do it in the middle of summer. So we've not had air conditioning since mid-July. I know. So, so that Johnny thing you see outside was the temporary air conditioner, which is great if you stand near it, but otherwise, so we decided to we looked at the long range forecast. We said, well, today wasn't going to be super hot, so I apologize. But hopefully by December, I think we'll be finishing in early October. So in the next week, it'll probably be too cold. But I'm not going to repeat what's in the report. I was telling Anthony that we never have a slow summer. It's really amazing. The only slow times at DYC is probably mid-December to mid-January. It's truly incredible, and it speaks to the energy among our nonprofit partners and the dedication of our staff. I do want to share a couple of things that are not in the report, and you can read it at your leisure. After almost 2 years of planning, we finally got sign off from all the powers that be to release the summer youth employment request for proposal, which will be, I call it SYP 3.0, because it'll be significant changes, the most significant change being that we're going to, for the first time, have nonprofits work with schools, particularly the career and education schools. It's something I've been talking about for 3 or 4 years. But to do that, we need to get the money baseline, and that happened in 2016. And then the work group between us and the City Council, the first meeting was September 29, 2016. So I used to joke that to get a new program off the ground in the city, it takes longer than childbirth. It really is longer than childbirth. It's 2 years. I mean, but our staff did a great job. I'll praise them for not hearing Andre White and Matthew Montanez, our budget staff. We got help from Mike Nolan, who's the top aide to the deputy mayor, to kind of get everyone to yes. The budget office, the mayor, and it'll be at 70,000 jobs. So it's still behind. And the most important thing besides the partnership with the schools is that we were able to increase what we give nonprofits. I know, Nancy, that's because there's a direct correlation between what we pay and the quality of the program. And the cost of reimbursement has not gone up in a decade. And the cost of doing things go up, obviously. So we're able to, I think, pretty much get to what we wanted. If you want to see the concept paper, which we released a year ago, it was a year ago, right? Yeah, a year ago. we can send it out again. It kind of gives you a good outline of the things we'll be doing in this new initiative. The contracts will probably start in February, in place in time for next summer. The other thing that I want to draw attention to that we're doing is we're starting we're restarting a partnership with Actors Fund and the Screen Actors Guild to help connect their members to jobs and after school programs. I don't think I touched about this last meeting, but in an informal conversation with a staff person at an event, I asked them what was happening. And this is the challenge we're facing, a challenge of growth. Many after-school programs have a hard time finding staff because it's a labor market shortage because we've grown so much, so quickly, and then you have challenges in finding program directors, activity specialists, and so we're shrinking our partnership with the community because one of the things we did a few years ago is we seeded the Youth Studies Certificate Program with them, and there's a master's program. So we're making sure that young students who go to these programs connect with job opportunities in our network, but it's still not enough. And so about 10 years ago, I had a conversation with a dear friend of mine, Kathy Schreier, at the Actors Fund, she was thinking about how to connect her members. So most actors don't make a living acting. And it's the recent story about Owens, what's his first name, the guy from the Cosby Show that he was working at Trader Joe's. So there's, 99% of actors don't make a living acting. But they're highly talented, very creative, highly educated, probably good at working with young people. So we're doing, on October 1st, we're doing a meet and greet at the Actors Fund and with the Screen Actors Guild and a host of associations that serve actors and entertainers with the HR directors of the programs. So they begin to understand what opportunities are out there, and then there's always churning in our after-school programs, because it's competitive. We just added 28 Sonic programs this year because there were 28 schools that didn't have middle school grades when we launched the program in 1994. So that is happening. It'll probably be reported on the next report, but I just want to give people a sense of that. And the other thing that we're going to be doing starting in October is this will be the 10th year of the Step It Up campaign. And it also will be the 50th anniversary of the Stonewall uprising. And so this year's theme will be fighting for LGBTQ rights. And so we're going to get young people to pick up this issue, to talk about it, to organize around it, and to develop dance performances. And hopefully we're going to try to get Nike back into this. Jeanette?
I'm here.
We have some ideas about a role for Nike since Nike gave birth to the Step It Up program a decade ago.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, so we have some ideas about ways, we can engage Nike in this because 10 years is truly a significant point, and I think to line up with the efforts to promote gay rights is important as well. So those are the things that are not in the report that you should look for, and for those people, I'm trying to look around to see who knew Miguel Almodovar. Nancy, you knew Miguel, right? And did you know Miguel Almodovar, our Assistant Commissioner for Youth Employment? Thanks to the gracious support of Workforce Professional Training Institute, they're going to launch an annual Miguel Almodovar Award for people in the youth employment field, because he was the first Assistant Commissioner of Youth Employment when the program came to DYCD in 2004, and he was one of the architects of the modern SYP, what I call SYP 2.0, because things we've taken for granted, like no longer having carbon copy applications and having an online application, things we take for granted, no longer paper checks but a debit card. It was under his leadership that we got there. And so he died, for people who don't know him, in 2010 of pancreatic cancer, way too young. And I wanted to acknowledge, his contributions and to do it in a way that wasn't to be at DYCD, but sort of out in the field. So that's sort of things that are not important.
questions for the commissioner? Nancy?
Bill, in terms of nonprofit summer youth employment providers partnering with schools, what do you see the advantage of that is? What's the value add of doing that?
When I first thought about this, it's really aligning school year learning with the summer experience. Most young people haven't made a career choice. I mean, so I think there are three things you want to accomplish in the summer youth employment program. One is work readiness, and that's true for people who don't have any work experience, whether it's a homeless youth, whether it's a 14 or 15-year-old. Career exploration, which is why there's been such an emphasis on our part to expand the number of private sector placements. And the third goal was career alignment. And that's a much smaller sector of young people because young people still haven't figured out, but for young people, particularly in career and technical education programs, they've kind of made a choice. It may not be the final choice, but the idea is that what they learn during the school year, they can practice what they learn and get paid. I mean, I've spoken many times to Tim Lasante, and he does a great job with his portfolio. He just became executive superintendent for adult learning, adult education. Does he oversee CTE as well now? Oh, okay. But he gets it. He says the biggest challenge he has is finding how to pay the wages. I'm sure it's the same issue with career and education. You know the employers, but they're not willing to pay the wages. So this allows us to do that alignment.
Any other questions? Yes.
I just wanted to reinforce what the commissioner said. We have approximately 62,000 kids that are enrolled in CTE programs in New York City, career and technical education. So they think they've made a career choice. They might or might not have, but they're in a high school program where they're taking 7 elective courses in this area of study, leading to advanced knowledge in an area of work. Giving them an opportunity to work in their chosen field is one of our goals. We only have funding, we do about 4,000 kids centrally right now. This past 2 years, we've partnered with DYCD on small pilots and greatly expanded that. So we're really looking forward for where these will work to allow a lot more of our kids who've been learning to actually try to do that. And we have a large population that are ready to do that. So we're very excited about the opportunity where it's not just through a lottery that some of them might get it, but we can actually develop a program and work with the CEO so we're all ready to go and there's a more alignment of work. So thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so I think we'll move on to the program committee report. So on July 20th, we had our quarterly program committee meeting. The topic was on DYCD's Neighborhood Development Areas program. And the Assistant Commissioner, Mike Bobbitt, joined us at that meeting. We learned a lot about NDA programs, and I want to invite any youth board or youth committee members who did attend to share any words about the meeting. I actually was not able to make it. Do we have anyone who attended? Okay, well, we had good feedback on the meeting, and do you want to speak? Yeah, please.
So one thing I have to say about the meeting, and again, we do these meetings, these program meetings, to give all of you a chance to learn more about the programs. Assistant Commissioner Mike Bobbitt spoke about the neighborhood advisory boards, which help to govern and oversee neighborhood development areas. One thing that we're trying to push there moving forward is get more young people involved. So those of you know Reggie Miller, he'll be here shortly. He had to drop off his child this morning and told us to be a little late. His group, Seeds of Peace, works with young people on some leadership programs, and this is a perfect example where there's some cross referrals, right? Some cross collaboration where some of the young people who are involved in these programs during the summer are also interested in some opportunities during the rest of the year. So since we had this push to try to get more young people involved in neighborhood advisory boards, Reggie was able to submit some names, recently to Mike and for consideration to join some of the neighborhood advisory boards. So that was, I think, a nice outcome of the meeting, and also I think a sign of what the types of partnerships and that we want to have with the youth board and the youth committee. So I know Reggie will be here shortly. So thanks. I'll just keep the mic, because the next part is the youth board officer election. So, as you know, every September is our annual meeting, and this is for the youth board members, not the youth committee members here. We hold elections for the officers. We need to have quorum. Right now, we're too short, unfortunately. So, I think what we'll do is this, and you know, the bylaws actually don't dictate how we do this or don't do this. And I think there's something we can look at moving forward around the bylaws to look at how we get quorum, a proxy vote, and what have you. If it's okay with all of you, I think what I would like to do is we have 9 youth board members here. We need 11. So I would like to take a tally of the 9 members here, and then what we can do is reach out to some of the remaining members who weren't here to have them weigh in, and then that's what we'll do. I will double check with our legal team afterwards that this is okay. I think it'll be okay, because again, the bylaws, are kind of silent about what we can do. This will be a little more efficient, I think, than calling another meeting via conference call just to hold the vote. But what I will pledge to you is, we'll work together to revise the bylaws moving forward, so this, we can address the issues in the future. So, for the youth board members who are here, I'd like to, take the vote. Again, the folks who the standards, rules, and nominating committee have put forward the names of Liz Cribbs, again, as vice chair, and Jordana as secretary engagement officer. There is still an opening for corresponding secretary, so we could open the floor for nominations to that. If there are any, if not, we will proceed and we'll have at least 2 to 3 officers in place, along with Alexa, who's appointed by the mayor. So, any nominations for corresponding secretary from youth board members? Okay. So, I guess a motion for the current board, the existing 9 members here to vote in favor of the slate for Liz and Jordana. And again, this will become official once we get enough votes from the remaining board to achieve quorum. So.
I move to move the nomination of
Thank you. Second? All those present in favor of Liz and Jordana to be vice chair and secretary engagement officer? Any opposed?
You can vote for yourself.
Yes, you can vote yourself. Any opposed? Okay. So again, we will make this official when we reach out to the remaining members. And so we'll make that official. And like I said, we'll look at the bylaws to revise it moving forward. Might be, I think, worthwhile to minutes. Sure, I guess we could do that. So along the same lines, we did not have a chance to approve the minutes of the prior meeting, the March and the June meeting minutes. So similarly, a motion to approve the minutes. Second, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, carries. And I know we had a few members that joined us, so perhaps they want to introduce themselves.
Real estate in the private equity space doing real estate debt transactions.
Yes, good morning. My name is Ana Garcia Reyes. I am the Associate Dean at Ostos Community College at City University of New York.
Hi, I'm Patty Macker, and I work at Futures and Options, which is a nonprofit focused on career development for middle and high school students in New York City.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nia Jones. I work in corporate philanthropy and I live in Brooklyn.
I think we have all the members that joined us. So I think we'll move on, Anthony, if that's okay, and Commissioner, to the DYCD Service Hub presentation. As part of DYCD's program integration work, it's currently in the process of developing a service hub, which will be an online resource to allow New Yorkers to find and apply for DYCD-funded programs. It will include an online application that New Yorkers can use to apply for any DYCD-funded programs, which is amazing. We're pleased to ask Yexenia Markland from DYCD's Planning, Program, Integration, and Evaluation Unit to join us to give us a presentation on development. She'll also be using us as a focus group. I know that's a role that we all love to play, to give our feedback and be a part of these great programs. So after she makes her presentation or during, she'll be asking us to give some feedback on our thoughts. Jessie? Exercise today.
Thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Jessie. My name is actually Yexenia Markland. Everyone calls me Jessie. I try to be, nice individuals when they see the spelling of my name. But I do thank you for this opportunity. The development of DYCD Service Hub is very much aligned with, and excuse us for the technical, difficulties. We'll get back to that shortly. But the development of DYCD Service Hub is really aligned with one of the priorities that the agency put forth for the year, which is, you all had a copy in your folder, and it's priority 4, which is really that there are clear and robust internal and external communications that better position DYCD and highlight the impact and successes of our agency-funded programs. So, once we get this up, I don't know, by a show of hands, is anyone here familiar with Discover DYCD? Okay, that's what we thought. And that's what we've come in contact with over and over again. So the Service Hub is really, it's really a hub. It's an online portal that we're developing for current participants, CBOs, internal staff, non-participants, interested parties to actually see the suite of services that DYCD offers. So up on the monitors now is actually Discover DYCD. You can see them on all monitors. So this system now, when we developed this about 3 years ago, was really is the initial introduction of some of the programs that we have and offer. But as you know, if you don't know about it, it's not as useful or helpful to us. And then also we noticed that there was additional functionality that we wanted to make sure that we built out. So the Service Hub would actually allow individuals to apply online to a suite of services that DYCD offers. And it also gives you a lot of background on who we are, what the programs do, in addition to, down the line, we're looking to develop referrals and pathways. So just listening to some of the conversations, it's very much aligned. It's a way to kind of say, well, if you have a participant that might be in one of our after-school programs, but they're also eligible for one of the workforce programs, there is a pathway in which we can connect the dots and help our CBOs better make referrals and to inform our patrons, customers, and different participants, non-participants, of the ways in which we have opportunities that they would be able to take better advantage of. So if you open up your folder, I believe it was on the left side, the last sheet, it says the Youth Board Focus Group. I'm going to walk through the questions. I encourage you to please fill it out. Just note that the system, this is one of the first times for DYCD in which we're building as we go. In essence, we're meeting with various stakeholders. So this is one of maybe about the 10th or 12th focus group that I'm conducting. I've conducted it with various CBOs. I've actually met with participants. I had an opportunity of working with our lovely Ladders for Leaders interns. So actually getting in front of young people to hear what they say. We're also going to be meeting with the community boards, going into different neighborhoods to hear what the feedback is, what it is that they're looking for, and how can we better assist them. So the first question here, it says, how do you currently search for programs or services that you're interested in? And it doesn't have to be a DYCD funded service. We're interested in knowing, like, what is your practice or process, either for yourself or for a loved one or someone that you that's in your household that you would be referring to or just speaking about. Just because whatever that process is, we want to make sure that we're successful at how we capture that process. Again, the Service Hub is what we're looking to be the main mechanism to host all of the information about the myriad of services we offer, but we know that there's also a level of building awareness about the system, continuing to build awareness about what DYCD does and what we offer. So the first question, again, so by the end of this meeting, I please ask that you take the time and fill it out because the feedback is imperative. If you look at the screening form, excuse me, if you look at Discover DYCD on the scene, we have the categories, the service category. Over the summer, a lot of the focus groups was focusing on what types of categories we could offer, we should present publicly. As it stands, what we have in our system is after-school programs, family support, immigrant services, jobs and internships, reading and writing, runaway and homeless youth, and summer programs. When we moved to Discover DYCD based on the feedback from participants, CBOs, internal and other external stakeholders, we have redeveloped our categories, particularly runaway and homeless youth. I did a focus group with those participants who were taken aback by the naming of runaway and homeless youth, most of which didn't even see themselves as homeless. So we've now recategorized that as youth housing support. So that's just one of the examples that we learned. We were also moving forward with a new category called community centers, which didn't test well. We were really excited internally thinking, we have this new model, we're moving to community centers for the 11 new Beacon programs, and we thought that it would really capture a lot of what we did. That didn't resonate well when we tested it out. So we won't be doing community centers, but we are including a category for community services, which kind of captures a lot of different program areas within that bucket. So that's just some of the examples of how the immediate feedback that we received, we reviewed it, we took, we spoke internally, we decided that based on the feedback and what the end user would be experiencing, that's how we would recategorize those things. So I want you to know that the feedback that you're giving really helps to inform this system, because we want to make sure that whatever we develop will be utilized and that it makes sense for the end user and not just for ourselves. So back to the form, we have the second question, which says, would you use an online application to apply to a DYCD funded program? Why or why not? This just helps to support whether or not, because it's a major investment for the agency, we want to make sure that the stakeholders see a value in that. In this day and age with a lot of technology, it doesn't replace the paper form. However, we know specifically for young individuals and younger participants, they all have smart devices and they would readily use this application, but we don't want to make assumptions. So our goal for all of these focus groups is to kind of just get additional support, feedback, and data to support what we're feeling, what we are suggesting, and what we're proposing. The third question says, what information should be communicated about the status of the application? So this is if you were to utilize an online application to apply to any funded service, what would you want us to say in an email? Like, what should it say? What do you think when you apply for anything online? What does it usually provide for you? What do you think is adequate information to let you feel that, okay, my information was received, these are the next steps, this is what they're moving forward with, or this is just where it is right now. So we're interested in getting that overall perception. The next question says, how often should the status of your application be updated? just by, you can kind of popcorn out answers. If you were to apply to anything online, how often would you want to be updated? I mean, keep in mind that for many individuals who are inundated with emails, how often would you think would be sufficient to receive an application, a status update on your application? So questions like that. Does there anyone here that feels strongly about getting weekly reminders for status, an update on your status application, the status of your application? Oh, exactly. So this is why I'm asking this information, because we're not putting any policy or practice in place without this feedback. So if we think 1 week is excessive, sure. What do you think would be acceptable?
What are the stages of status? That's really
So that's, and we're also, so in terms of the stages of status, that's also to be determined. So we want to know from the end users, from the different stakeholders, do you need, or should they be stages of status? So this is another question. So now we would take back and say, you know, well, what are the different stages? And then what we do is then test it out with the various stakeholders. Yeah.
Am I just going to be applying, I want to go to an after-school program, or am I going to know that it's Mary Junior Smith High School after-school program
Yes.
that I'm applying to?
So in terms of that, would you just be applying to just an after-school? No. The system will actually kind of create filters, various filters in which you would say, I'm looking for an after-school program in Brooklyn for a participant that is 12 years old, and I want to be in this specific zip code. So there is a series of filters that would kind of narrow it down based on which the inputs that you put in. So you might get 12 after-school programs in a specific area that offers the types of services you're looking for, and which you would be able to apply to all 10.
What's the criteria for being accepted? So what's the criteria for being accepted to a specific program?
So it depends on the program. So each provider, we don't dictate what the specific criteria is. So there are certain things in everyone's RFP that are basic. So depends on the program area. So for Sonic Middle School program, some programs you don't have to be a member of that school in order to enroll. However, for Sonic Middle School, you would have to be in grade 6 through 8. So that would be the criteria. It's really more so depending on the program area, what the eligibility requirements for. It becomes more stringent when you're looking at, say, an NBA, which is a neighborhood development group, just because they have certain income requirements. You have to live in a specific zip code. So all of that would be explicit and filtered out. So we want to make sure that you're not applying for things that you would not be eligible for.
Who reviews the applications?
The applications will actually be reviewed by the CBOs that actually receive the apply. So similarly, if you were to do a paper form and take it to the CBO, that process remains the same. We're just moving the place of it so that it's easier to access, and then we have a better ability of tracking the demand and the supply to see maybe we might want to redistribute funding or different things down the line. But the CBO, if the onus is on the CBO to review the applications, and what I'm meeting with them in focus groups is how long should they have to reply, and they're actually helping us to determine the policy on how long they would need to actually reply to the different applicants.
How are you going to manage?
Do you think you have the technical capacity to do it live so that you know when a program is full, or like we can't take any more applications so kids aren't continuing to be sent there?
So what we're trying to think is how do we handle that, because for the most part when you apply online, DYCD, you are not enrolled. It is up to the provider to actually enroll you. So what we're working on is the mechanism. Once you are now fully enrolled, this provider is fully enrolled, we're working on a mechanism in which if they're fully enrolled, it would say that it's not, that it's full, and you will no longer be able to apply, so that parents aren't just continuously applying to one type of program that's no longer available. But we won't know that until the provider actually enrolls them. So once they do the actual enrollment on their end, our system would then be able to say, this is the filtered list, but this is what's actually available. Because at no point do we want to dictate to providers how to enroll and who to enroll.
So the problem is gonna be like in the fall when you have like a lot of people going on, and so 30 people sign up, they only have 10 slots, it's gonna be a long, so maybe it should be more like, you're not actually applying, like maybe the CEO has to set up an appointment, and you.
Oh, no, so there is a great point, there is a follow-up. So the system would let you know that this is an online, a universal application form that goes out to all of these providers. You are not enrolled. There is a next step in which the CBO, if space is permitted, will contact you because some CBOs do require additional information and have additional requirements. So in the notification, we would be sure to say, so for provider A, B, and C, that application is there, whatever the time period that they have to respond to you on the status, but if selected, you would then have to work with the CBO to actually enroll your participant. So that would be explicit in the sense where they're not just waiting in vain. And they know that the onus is on the CBO, that there is an additional step.
Process, is it that people individually apply to the individual program? So what you're trying to do is to make this a universal application. So this is the challenge because this hasn't happened before, correct? Okay. And in general, what is kind of the timeline of, I know it's all individual applications, but when you apply just directly to one place, kind of what's the timeline of response?
It varies, which is why we're trying to now create a policy. Because even with dealing with we get a lot of feedback and data from Youth Connect, who feels a lot of the phone calls from parents and providers and wanting to know what's next. So because right now it's so individualized, there is no overall policy. So we're not looking to change much. However, we do want it to make it known that what the policy would be, you're applying online, how much time a provider has to get back to you, and what to expect. So we want to be clear with that.
And would they apply just only online, or is it that they can apply directly to that organization as or?
So for right now, in the initial iteration, it will be both. We don't want to just say, well, we're taking away everything. The Commissioner.
So this is the challenge. We're trying to broaden access and also manage expectations. And so Denise and her staff met with the UPK staff at the Department of Education. So this is how they did it. And so we want to learn from how they did it, mistakes they made, because it's a learning process. Most of our app enrollment is done in person, and so it favors people who know the program exists. One exception being somebody's employment program where everyone knows about it, and we had 163,000 applications last year. So that's why we want to be deliberate in hearing people, concerns, the balancing, because ultimately the enrollment is controlled by each program. Because one of the things, for example, the Sonic program, since the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, there's a great deal of emphasis on continuity. So if a young person enters in 6th grade, we want to make sure they stay in the program to the 7th and 8th grade, because we know from youth development, the more continuous intervention with the same young person, the more the impact. So we want to be mindful of balancing all these different things, continuous intervention, greater access, and managing expectations.
So the only other thing I'll add to that is what we learned from DOE was that most folks are doing it online, but they encourage us to have a phone line if you have a problem, especially with language issues, that you can call, which we have Youth Connect. We've always had Youth Connect, and also have a place where people can drop in. And so we've been meeting with Cornerstone leadership because those are our community centers, and that would be the third opportunity where there'd be someone at a Cornerstone that you could apply for. And so we also talk with HRA, they're doing their SNAP applications online. So when we say folks can't access online, it's kind of not true. They're in their second iteration. Not only can you apply online, but you can upload documents, which is not where we're at right now. So for a lot of our programs, like Workforce, you have to validate your income, where you live. So it's not just a one-step process. This is the application. There will be other steps. And then the last thing I'll say, this is the gateway to referrals and pathways. I think the thing that we found out from folks a couple of years ago, and the commissioner has been on us to try to figure out what to do is, if you come into a beacon, you know the beacon. You don't know about the literacy program, or if your family needs immigrant services, you don't know about the rest of what DYCD offers. If you have a really good program director, that we're trying to replicate, a big program director, they connect you, right, if they know. But we discovered, A, a lot of our staff don't know all the programs. B, the folks that we fund, they know the program they're working in. They don't necessarily know what else is in the neighborhood. And so we're trying to make that connection. So if you are in middle school and 8th grade, you're going to get an email from the system that say, hey, you're eligible for SYEP. Don't forget to apply. Here's the application, the application, you can do it for other things. And then the last thing I'll say, we found that out from principals when we did the needs assessment that I think we presented to you all. When we asked them what things do their families need, a lot of what they talked about were things we fund, right? But they didn't know what we fund. We funded to get connected to. They knew the Beacon or the Cornerstone or the Sonic, but not that you are now in a suite of services, including immigrant family supports, which was a big issue, right? That they didn't even know we funded. So we're trying to do a lot of things, and that's what we're talking to everybody, including other city agencies who are out there way ahead of us.
Sorry, I just had a clarifying point. I'm sorry, I'm Devin Cargan for the Center for Youth Employment. So in this thing, if I didn't have a CBO that I was wanted to get connected with, I was I just want an after school program for a child. Would there be so you submit the initial application that's kind of general, but would there be subsequent applications for each CBO?
No. I can. Do you want to finish your question? Is there more?
Yeah, and and if I didn't have an attachment, I just wanted to see, I wanted to see where my child or whatever could get in. Would I have to choose one CBO that I was interested in, or would it just be you can apply to 5 at the same time?
So the way the universal application works is that you can apply to 5 programs, different program areas. It doesn't have to just be after school, middle school, or it could be, you could use the same application to apply for a literacy program as well as an after school program or any other different service area. And note that the way the Service Hub works is that you will have a master account. So it could be a parent with a master account that has all of their kids underneath their account, so that you don't have to try to manage 3 different accounts and go back every time. You would have a login if you were interested in applying. You could access the system and search and create filtered lists and do all of that without creating a login. The login is when you're interested in actually applying, because this way we kind of save your information so that you can say, you know what, I applied to these 10 after school programs. I applied to this 1 literacy program for my older youth, and my grandmother was interested in the senior program. It can capture all of that in one master account.
So I'm now understanding this as more of a customer service
Exactly.
issue maybe. Because if people are applying, they expect, and certainly parents, expect some kind of resolution, some kind of follow-up, really pretty much immediately. And the burden seems to be not so much, the burden seems to be on service providers, contracted service providers, to do the responding. And I think that's probably, because then they're the customer service person.
So the initial response will be automatically generated from the system. So once we have a policy in place, if you've applied to 10 different programs, the email would say, here is a listing of the programs that you've applied to. The provider has 2 weeks from this date to contact you if space is available. If you're having any problems or concerns, you may contact Youth Connect, and we will also give information similar to what Denise says, in terms of if there's a service center in your area, some of the cornerstones. So we don't want the initial onus to be on the CBO. So we want to provide as much information and the status up front, so you know that, yes, you've applied, but it's going to take at least 2 weeks for someone to get back to you, so that you know not to be you won't call right away. You're not going to call the provider and say, well, I applied, what happened?
Right, but I think in order for the site to be used regularly and reliable, you kind of build in some confidence right away for the user. Actually, it could be brilliant. I should be talking about it as somebody who's developed this area. But so that's why I'm saying, like, I think maybe the energy should be spent on incentive for the person who, or the organization, the customer service that needs to happen, putting systems in place for the CEOs who are going to need to respond, not just you need to respond in 2 weeks. I think it should be less than 2 weeks.
That was just, I'm just saying 2 weeks. In all honesty, some of the feedback from the CEOs, they was like in 1 to 2 days, and I kind of told them, I don't think you want to commit to 2 days if you get 100 applications. So there's no timeline has been determined. We really want to work with our CEOs for them to realize what the process is and provide honest and open feedback on what they think would be best in terms of moving forward. We haven't set a policy for that as of yet.
My question relates to, are people going to be able to prioritize? So, for example, there are 5 after-school programs, and I want to apply to 5, but this is the order that this would be my first choice. Or does somebody have to apply for 1 and here it's not available, and then go to 2, or do they get the immediate responses from number 5? I mean, I think that being able to prioritize, whether the issue is you can do it online, which would be great, or you can only apply to 1, and if you're turned down, go to 2, but I think that would be an issue.
Yeah, so definitely, so the priority has risen. That concern is now with the developer. We're trying to figure out. So it probably wouldn't be. It won't be in the first iteration, but that's something that's definitely been bookmarked as several of the different stakeholder groups mentioned that. The reason why we wouldn't do the 1 then 2, because initially we're not presenting what's available in terms of slots, and you're not enrolled. Just because some providers might have sibling priorities, different things that we are not yet capturing. So we wouldn't be able to do the first and 2, second and third. However, we are trying to figure out what is the best mechanism to create some level of favoritism or hierarchy in which the application goes forward. So that is something that's on our radar right now.
No, the question I have is, I know that you set up some criteria for being accepted into all of these programs. So what would cause someone to, if that's sort of spelled out in the front, up front, what would cause someone not to be accepted? I mean, why would you get rejected?
I wouldn't say, it would more so, it would just be space, or for
it's just space. So basically, if the CBO has space, you basically will be accepted.
If there is space and they don't have, some CBOs also, similar to like a SYP, some CBOs have a lottery, just because they know it says they have 150 slots, that they're going to get 400 applications. Many of our providers do also do a lottery. So that's why I said there isn't a finite criteria for why or why you wouldn't be allowed into a program. So it's not because you didn't meet a specific requirement. Most of it has to do with the space available.
Except for workforce.
Yeah.
Because you can be, even with SYP, you can be accepted. There's like 5 steps after that. You gotta bring in your document about income. You gotta bring in your document about, so a lot of times the drop off with SYP is following through on the paperwork. So you can be accepted, win the lottery, and still not go through to the job. Some for after school, you don't go to the orientation, right? Some after school, you can get accepted, but then you don't go to the orientation. So then you
So the system could really establish like a queue, right, as far as a number, so that I know that I've got 100 spots.
Yes.
And so if I apply, I know what my number is.
Yes. That would be.
And then if people fall off, then I move up.
Yes.
And then I can be informed of my status or my location, but I'd have to have some form of some way of seeing that on the system would make a lot of sense.
No, and I think so. We're definitely looking to add initially that when you apply to a program, I know we're talking a lot about after school, but there are so many other types of programs that DYCD offers which may be different. So similar to like a workforce, an NBA program, you might make it through to a final step. For literacy, there's also a level of validation and verification that has to happen after the initial application. So that may be an instance, but we are trying to capture that, like your status, like you're applied, pending, under review. So we're trying to figure out what is the terminology in which we would add to the system that would make it useful for someone to say, you know what, I see that I applied, it's pending, it's under review, it's pending, or maybe there is space is not available, wait list. So those are the things that we're trying to determine that policy before we finally launch. We're not launching without those policies being in place.
Yeah, one is you kind of pointing out, you have a lot of different kinds of programs. So if I apply for SYP, it's very different. And if I'm a parent, I need a place for my child, and I need to know because I go to work every day and I need to know who's after it. And also for those younger children, they may want to see who's there, and they may want to visit the site and see who the staff are. It's much more so than an SYP provider. So I think that the biggest thing is going to be managing how many slots do you have? Because also if you apply to 5, you get accepted to 3, you're only going to pick 1. The 3 programs think they have you momentarily. So I'm wondering, is application the right word? Maybe it's like information about potential programs. Please contact me with additional information or make an appointment or something. I'm just wondering, application makes it sound so committed that you're doing this, and maybe that's not really what you're doing. Maybe you're actually providing opportunity for expressing an interest that you're interested in this program as an inquiry, and would you please get back to me with next steps or something?
So that's interesting. This is the first time someone has mentioned the term application, and that's something that we can definitely test out with the various stakeholders, specifically parents and other end users, to see how they react to that term. Because I think what you're saying is changing the term, but the process still kind of remains the same. So that's something that we can definitely that I would definitely test forward, because I would want to make sure, I'm a parent of a soon to be a 5-year-old who would be using the system to apply for an after-school program. So I'm very mindful and cognizant of that as well, that perception. So again, this is one of many stakeholder groups that we're doing. We're making sure that we get to all of the different community members, community boards, and the varying levels of stakeholders. So we also want to meet with principals. We're meeting with parents, family members, community advocates, because we want to create a product that makes the most sense. We're not just going to create an online hub or a service hub if it doesn't connect or doesn't answer any questions, and it doesn't help to solve a problem. It's not going to be as effective. But I thank you for your time and your feedback. Please do complete this form, because again, like we said, anything that comes up here, I then test out with other stakeholders, so nothing becomes finite. So no one just says something and it becomes so. Not even from internal stakeholders. We still answer to City Hall, City Council, our commissioner. However, we are testing everything out with the different end users to see what makes the most sense for us. So while we may think that it's very applicable or it might be a concern or a sticking point, some parents might say, I'm okay with it. So I thank you for your time, and I will also have Anthony can also share my contact information. If anyone is also interested in participating in any other focus groups or have any other stakeholders that they think would be beneficial to contribute and offer information, we're definitely looking for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessie. And if everyone could just pass their forms down. No, actually, you can pass it right to Jessie. Yeah. And if you have any other follow-up information, we'll get her contact information out to her. So I'm pleased to let you know we actually do have a quorum now. So I'm going to just flip it back to Anthony to, again, just take a quick vote both on the officer elections as well as the minutes, if we can.
Okay, so this will make it official. So again, to recap real quick, and I know some of the members that arrived a little later, for the youth board officer elections, it's just for the youth board members to vote. The standard rules and nominating committee is proposing a slate again of Liz Chris for vice chair, Renee for secretary engagement officer for the slate. So a motion to move forward on that vote. You can do it again, Nancy. Second? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, and then officially to adopt the minutes from the March and June meetings. This is a vote for all members, youth board and youth committee. A motion to approve the minutes. Second. Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. We've done the official business. Thank you. Thank you.
So we'd like to move on to the last portion of the meeting, which is youth board, youth committee engagement opportunities. So I think as most of you have known over the past couple of meetings, we've come together to see how we as a group can be more supportive of DYCD and their mission. And it's actually priority 5 on the DYCD 3-year priority. It says engaging partners and finding partnerships that leverage existing resources. So, this is a way for us to help DYCD with their priorities. Before we break, we're going to do just a quick breakout session again like we did before, just for a few minutes. But before we do, I want to turn it over to Jordana, our secretary and secretary in board engagement, to talk about an upcoming board engagement opportunity.
Hi. So I work at Lincoln Center and I run the David Rubenstein Atrium, and we do free programming every week, and every Thursday we do a free show. And one of the things that I was thinking would be really great for us as a group is to be able to get a chance to just know each other in a way that's not so structured and to have some organic relationships. So I'm offering to do a happy hour at my space before one of my performances. It's on October 4th. I sent an email out about it and I'll send it another. And I'm passing around the flyer. Yusra El Hawari is actually a woman who is touring here from Egypt. She is kind of part of the underground scene there musically. She's an indie artist. She was part of the, she made a song that became viral and really popular during the Egyptian Revolution. And it's actually about taking down walls, so I think that's kind of appropriate for where we are in our society. This is actually a project that was actually supported by the State Department, and her tour is part of this program called Center Stage, which is about bringing communities together on cultural ambassadorship. And they actually support artists to tour to the States who come to communities who are maybe from countries or religions or identities that people in the States don't really know about or have maybe negative ideas or have maybe political conflict with. So this is an idea to make a human connection. And so we thought that this particular performance of Yusra's would be really something special to be part of. But you don't have to stay for the performance because I understand it's a long day. So we're proposing to have you guys come from 6 to 7 at the David Rubenstein Atrium. It's a beautiful space. We'll have some drinks and some light affair, and we'll love to have you guys come and just have a chance to interact, share who we are to each other, so that maybe there's some other bonds that we can make and maybe other opportunities will come out of this. And you are more than welcome to stay for the performance as well, but it's not required at all. I mean, none of it is, but please come.
I feel like this is a great example of a concrete, learning and engagement opportunity. We came together, we brainstormed around it, and Jordana put something forward, so thank you, Jordana, for doing that. Before we break out in groups, because I do have the mic, and I'm really, thank you for your vote of confidence and letting me run the meeting today. I just want to thank Anthony Ng and Andre Joseph for everything that you do, not only for this meeting, but all the meetings before this, and all the work in between. You really are both, we're so lucky to have you, and just incredible individuals on the team. So we can. Thank you, both of you. So, Anthony, in terms of orchestrating this, just 3 groups, yeah?
So in your folders, there's a one-pager that says September 2018 Youth Board, Youth Committee Engagement Opportunities. So what we're going to attempt here for the coming year is at each meeting, we're going to have a point in the meeting where there's going to be a list of engagement opportunities for all of you to consider. If you recall in some of our meetings earlier in June and late last year, a lot of the discussion was about how can we contribute, what are some concrete ways we can contribute, and what we heard from many of you is you wanted specifics. So what we've done since the June meeting is we went back to and spoke to some staff internally, and asked them, well, what are some concrete ways that the youth board can participate and assist and engage? We've shared with our staff all your bios, so they know who you are, your backgrounds, your organizations. And, really what I do and Andre do in between meetings is, kind of play this matchmaking role, trying to keep our pulse on emerging priorities, events, existing events, new opportunities. And, our pledge is before, at each meeting before, we want to present these lists of opportunities. So what you have before you are the list of opportunities we've curated for this meeting. Some of these may sound familiar to you because we've mentioned in the past. And it's really a menu of items. So what we thought the way we can do this for this meeting to kick this off is, while we know that maybe there's just 3 areas we've divided these in: direct involvement with youth, program administrative support, and learning and engagement. So really opportunities where you can interact directly with programs and young people, and or interact in a way to support our initiatives more broadly speaking, which is tended to be how we've asked you for support, especially around some of the employment program, Values for Leaders, right? Supporting our initiatives writ large. And then, of course, there's learning engagement, which is, again, ways to continue to learn about programs, tours, about our programs, even ways to connect with each other, right? So, you have before you a list of the potential opportunities that we've identified for this month. I think what we want to do to move this forward is break up into, have 3 breakout groups, look at the opportunities for this month and maybe go to the group that you're most interested in. And then in that group, you can talk amongst yourself and either say let each other know how you can take this opportunity on yourself, or maybe there's ways you guys can work together on it. Would be great if there's one volunteer in each group who can kind of write down all the opportunity, for each member, what opportunity they can commit to. Of course, we encourage you to commit to something, but if you can't for this time, we understand. But if you can have one person in your group kind of write down what everyone is committing to, either individually or together, that would be great so that we know afterwards. And, if you're, say, going to the direct involvement with youth group, but you actually also want to do something in either other 2 areas, also mention that to the person who's taking on the notes, so then we'll just know that. Does that sound good? Any questions? Okay. I was going to walk through these items, but I think they're pretty self-explanatory. But, if you look at it, there's a lot of opportunities to engage directly with our campus programming, our campus elementary and Sonic program. I think there's some exciting things our Sonic team is looking at around trying to increase exposure to colleges of young people, and I know we have a few members here who represent colleges, so that might be something you might want to look at. Just real quick on the program administrative support. As you know, every year we do a holiday gift drive, so we'll be doing that again. We actually have an event next week, our annual Dads Take Your Child to School Day. We're still looking for sponsors, even at this late day, a week out. And I think Andre's reached out to some of you about that. So, and you can talk with Andre more in particular about that. And then one last thing I do want to say on the area of program and admin support. I think many of you have heard about Young Citizens Conference. We had a presentation about that 2 meetings ago. This is our annual conference where we highlight youth leadership, civic engagement opportunities, and projects. We want to grow that conference this year. We're outgrowing the space. The past few years we've had at John Jay College. Our goal is to get to 500 youth or above this.
We turn young people away. They have to apply to showcase their project, and because the space only holds 300 young people did projects during the year can't go on a Saturday.
So this event is in May. I think this year's on May 12th, so it's in early to mid-May. So for any of you who are private institutions, maybe have connections to space, we're looking for a space of 500 and above.
So we're making a pitch for Jacob Javits, the somebody knows somebody who runs programs at Jacob Jack's.
But you know, also casting a wide net. Right?
Yeah, so we don't want to put all eggs in one basket.
Perhaps Fordham host us. The what? Oh, by the river. Do they have conference space there? I thought it was just like a park. Okay. Well, we'll look into it. Okay, so, alright, that's helpful. So, you know, it's 9:45, I guess, for the remaining 10-15 minutes. If folks take a look at the areas here, and let's divide ourselves into 3 groups. So maybe direct involvement with youth here, program administrative support in the middle, and learning engagement down there. And again, go to the group that you're most interested, even if you might be interested in more than one. So. Yes.
The middle is
program administrative support in the middle, and then learning engagement at the end.
If I can just make one suggestion in the groups, because I know we're running short on time, if the scribe for each group, instead of coming back together and doing a debrief, I don't think we have time, if the scribe for each group could just document who might look into what and send Anthony and Al, that way Anthony will have it written down. So that we'll wrap up the meeting at 10 o'clock that way. Thank you so much.
Positions that are paid, and there's an unpaid internship, it's different. But because we're a retail organization, and business can't complain the ratings, and it's peak time, to be able to hold a position at the start of the summer, we would have but internal available, we just start them early. Wasn't able to grab it, so we're going to go back to the table and see how next year we can because our business is a little bit different.
I was keeping an eye on you to see if you were leaving the meeting or coming to know. It looks like anybody.
This is the one at the end? Right.
It's not your core market.
It was really just a time.
Anyway, that's one
The
idea.
opportunity is there, but for our type of business, it's time. We have a huge partnership with DYCD Service Hub.
So I guess what we're trying to figure out is like opportunities. There are opportunities for us to support each other and support the program. So, and you know, we've done some site visits where we've gone to a baking program. I think that was like a year where we went to a baking. 17. Oh, wonderful.
Mostly in high school.
Wonderful. And obviously it's hard to do that, but you're so right. If they can give us something at hand. You offer multiple programs. Yeah. Well, I don't know how this goes with our
Yeah. That looks like a good idea. That's this month, right? Is that
this is there's a critical mass of us, you know, to say we need 4 to 11 or 3 or something like that.
I'm on 37 and 7.
You know, because I know that's actually people have come back. It's a little bit more than I'm saying, but I think we've done. Yeah,
Still be
adult literacy, or the other DYCD funded
I did not
programs that we have
confirm, but
launched.
that was like, that's what I was going to do. You remember the time?
I went to the one
It
years
goes
ago,
from
we went to,
8:30 to
Runaway
to
Homeless,
1.
we went to the
And so 8:30 to 9 is 9.
a couple of them, Good Shepherd was one, but the big one.
So, but it should be pretty cool.
I'll look back at it.
Another one where the priest was in
Oh,
charge.
great.
Oh,
Yeah.
They were, that's not the door, that's, no, it's, Covenant House, which was such a big deal at one point. And now it's faded into the background, probably half of it. But anyway, Anyway, I agree. I think, I don't know what a Sonic program looks like versus some other. We always talk about Sonic, the cornerstone, something like just to go and get a presentation and see them. I think that those would be.
And you know, who knows? I mean, and maybe when we're doing the brainstorming, maybe what I'm saying, I don't know what would work. Or would it be more that there might be a handful of people who'd rather say, I'll take a day and let's go to 3 programs. I don't, you know, maybe polling us
Oh, that's
about
another idea too. You
would
maybe just take a whole day and go to a
and to
couple
see
of.
a few different
Although I don't
programs,
know if they're mostly after school.
yeah, or an afternoon. Well, you could do an afternoon of
You could
thing
in
like
the
an adult
neighborhood if you
literacy
want.
or an immigrant, you know.
I'm sure in Manhattan or downtown Brooklyn, you could go to a couple of these in an afternoon.
That's a lovely idea. How like, do you think that we, it's also kind of like feeding off of what you just said. It's like if it was a small group of people, then some people could come back and report back to the group and share that information so that we're, you know, also finding ways of engagement here too, so that like, you know, it's, and not everyone has the same responsibility. Do you think, what's kind of realistic in terms of expectations of maybe trying to get like 1 site visit a year, 3 site visits a year, like?
Maybe you could be ambitious and do 1 a quarter. Like
That's what I was
between
going to
each,
say.
we meet quarterly. Maybe each quarter we could
Schedule.
So like one looking forward to the next quarter, like, so like this meeting would say in the next 3 months we're gonna go see this again.
Between now and December, I'm assuming we did 1.
So like have them plotted out for the year,
Right, 'cause I think that
and then have
makes it
it.
easier for people to say, I'm gonna block off time if they have something.
Yeah, I don't know if we have, even if you get like 6 weeks or something, you know, if they told us today the one that we're doing this quarter is on October 12th and it's blah, blah,
Yeah, that's great. What about communication within our group? Because the other thing we were trying to figure out is like how to facilitate more communication, like, and opportunities and let people be able to share their resources. Like, is there something that's happening at the libraries that we should know about? And is there something that's happening, you know, that would be thoughtful and an easy way to share information? I don't know if it's a group. I mean, we have our group email, and Anthony's really good about sharing information that way, but is there...
Maybe it's thoughtful, like bribing the phone.
Right.
For example, with what you bring.
Yeah.
Finding somebody else who has something going on, so that people get in the habit of informing.
Right, I mean, I think, what I was thinking, because I think we looked at this list and they said the middle school wanted to get their kids more exposed to college. The thing that's triggered in my mind is, we have a mayoral initiative that's paying $10 million a year for college access for all, which also has a middle school component. Like, and they spend a tremendous amount of time identifying resources and helping our schools understand what the resources are out there they can access. Like, how could we connect these two things? This is what I find is that there's stuff like all the things they're trying to do, DOE is trying to do the same thing. And sometimes they get the money, sometimes we get the money, you know, but like the more we can, and I'm sure it's true in some other ways, there's probably some private funding, or maybe the libraries have an initiative or whatever. Like if there was a way just to chirp in and says, if you guys consider, here's a person to follow up with, the program people could pick up and run with it.
I like the it just seems like, I don't know, there's the way that I think that this board discovers to me, and I'm thinking that the library has is very beneficial to people who don't know about programs. So being able to identify where they are, where they have these options, is the real benefit of this. I think trying to set something up with an application, part of the application is really dependent on the CEOs. Yeah, they say we can answer. Right, and when Madeline goes on vacation, nobody and responds to this, or that you know, that if you, I mean, it's not
and if it's
the
a
real
Jewish holidays, it might
right,
even be
and
longer.
so I'm just saying, but the end to that may just be too English. The benefit here is to let people know about their options. And then, once you know.
Well, that's why I think it should be like, I'm interested, please follow up with me.
Yes,
Not
or
suggest that this is an application
yes,
that
or that
they're
here's,
gonna get
or
a
that
yes
here's
or
this,
no on.
here are the 10 programs that is the thing that you're looking for. Now, follow up.
I think one of the biggest problems that DYCD has is that people don't know about it, period. I mean, I didn't fully understand what DYCD did until I joined this board. And it's crazy because there's so many amazing programs that are supporting our city, and there's been so much movement towards this program over the years in terms of stability and funding, and people don't know about it. And even like friends who are mine who are educators don't know about it. And how do we get that in? I feel like that's the first step versus the application process. I think it's the first step is how do we share those resources to our community?
Like, to me, it's that communication and information program because there's DYCD funding programs. So it's giving, the mom is looking for an after school. Well, here's this venue, and here I know about this. There may be other things. Here are the private, but they're going to have to go someplace else, and that's okay. It's the information part of, that you can expect a certain standard and that these programs have been vetted. That makes them valuable. At the end of them trying to go that extra step, that was one of the things I how many staff are you going to need answering the phone?
A small neighborhood youth program, $500,000 in annual budget. I think like that we can communicate it. Who's going to? If the DOE has enough time with high school applications online, has a difficult enough time, and that's very controlled sort of. It is. I think that's why I suggested. I'm interested. Please follow up with more information or contact me because I'd like to know how I could come to it. Then you could invite them to an open house. You could invite them to whatever. And also the programs are very different. That's why it's very different than if you're looking for an after school or adult literacy.
Well, right.
Those are different
That
kinds
there are
of
ones
things.
where you know right away that there's not a program or that you're signing up for
And why
a program
wouldn't
that
you?
is based on a semester and there's nothing available.
If you learned about this great program, why wouldn't you get up your butt right over there and knock on the door and say, I want my kid in this program? Like, why would you wait to get an email? And also think of all the people that don't speak English and who don't understand processes, don't understand what any of this means.
Or think that they've done this application and I can see like from the one, this is great because they're going to be helping other people. And what the thing is, okay, here's this, you got this list. Go and go further rather than having these people come back to the librarian or the counselor to say, I haven't heard anything. Well, then
so I think we're going to formally wrap up the meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for your time, and if our scribes could just email Anthony any thoughts, and we'll follow up with you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Are you still working at the moment?
No, I'm inside.